A mother and kids face death in an ice cave, saved by a mysterious dog. Will they escape their pursuer? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for our latest epic tales. A dog's sharp bark shattered the ice cave's frozen silence, cutting through the howling wind like a blade, jolting Evelyn from the edge of despair. The sound echoed off the glistening walls, where frost clung like a shroud, trapping her and her children, Lily and Finn, in a tomb of winter's wrath. Evelyn, 32, her face hollow from days on the run, clutched Lily, 8, and Finn, 6, their small bodies trembling against her, their breaths faint in the merciless cold. They'd fled Victor, her ex-husband, whose fists had left bruises on her skin and terror in her children's eyes. But the mountain was a crueler hunter, its icy grip stealing their last scraps of hope. The cave's entrance was half buried in snow, their food gone, and the cold was a predator, gnawing at their bones. Evelyn's heart broke as Lily whispered, "Mom, I'm so cold," her voice barely audible over the storm. Finn, his lips blue, hugged his toy car, too weak to speak. His trust in her a burden she feared she couldn't bear. They'd escaped Victor's vow to kill her for leaving, but now death wore a frozen mask, and Evelyn felt it closing in. The bark came again, fierce, closer, and Evelyn's hand flew to her pocket knife, her only weapon, her pulse hammering. Was it Victor's men using a dog to track them? She'd seen their shadows in the last town, heard his threats through stolen phones. Lily whimpered, curling tighter, but Finn's eyes widened, pointing into the blizzard. "Mom, it's a dog!" A gray shape emerged, lean and storm-battered, its fur matted, its amber eyes glowing like beacons in the dark. It stood at the cave's mouth, barking once more, sharp and commanding, then stared at Evelyn, as if daring her to move. Her instinct screamed, trap or salvation. "Stay back!" she shouted, knife raised, but the dog didn't budge, its gaze unwavering. Then it turned, trotting into the snow, glancing back, urging them to follow. Finn's voice cracked. "He wants to help. Mom!" Evelyn's chest tightened. Stay and freeze, or trust a creature born of the storm. The cave groaned, ice cracking overhead, a rumble hinting at collapse. "Grab my hands," she ordered, pulling the kids up, their weight a lifeline she'd die to hold. They plunged into the blizzard, the wind a hammer against their faces, Evelyn shielding Lily and Finn as the dog, Storm, she named it, for its wild heart, led them into the white abyss. The path was a nightmare, a knife-edged trail over a chasm, snow blinding, ice slick as death. Evelyn's boots skidded, her scream lost as she caught Lily, Finn's toy car vanishing into the void. Storm barked, sharp, guiding them to a ledge, but a deeper roar shook the mountain. Avalanche, triggered by their steps or something stalking. Evelyn's heart seized, snow cascading above, and she shoved the kids into a crevice, Storm's body pressing against them as a torrent of white roared past, inches from their heads. Gasping, Evelyn checked her children, their faces ghost pale but breathing, and met Storm's eyes. Trust sparking in her fear, the dog surged forward, navigating drifts and cliffs with uncanny skill. Its paws sure were hers faltered. Hours bled into pain. Evelyn's legs screaming, her fingers numb, the kids' whimpers tearing her apart. But Storm's path descended, the wind softening, revealing a valley. A light broke through the snow, a mansion, its windows aglow, its silhouette a miracle in the dark. Evelyn's breath hitched, hope battling dread. Was it Victor's trap, his men waiting? Storm bounded toward it, undeterred, and Evelyn followed, desperation overriding fear. The door swung open, unlocked, revealing a foyer lit by a flickering bulb, a generator's hum promising life. Shelves held canned food, blankets, a fireplace stacked with logs. Evelyn slammed the door shut, barring it, her hands trembling as she wrapped Lily and Finn in wool, their shivers easing by the fire she lit. its crackle a defiant hymn. Storm curled by the hearth, watching her, and Evelyn knelt, whispering, "You saved us." The kids ate, Finn's color returning, Lily's eyes fluttering shut, but Evelyn's relief was a thin veil. Victor was out there, his rage a fire no blizzard could quench. She checked the windows, her heart stopping at a faint mark in the snow, a boot print, fresh, half buried. Storm's growl rumbled, his ears twitching, and Evelyn gripped her knife. The mansion's warmth a fleeting shield. Photos on the walls, an old man, alone, hinted at a story. But danger was closer. A distant howl, not wind but human, echoed through the valley, and Evelyn's blood ran cold. Victor's men, or worse, were near. Lily slept, Finn clutched his blanket, and Evelyn stood guard, Storm's eyes mirroring her resolve, knowing this haven was a battleground, and their fight for survival had only just begun. The fire's crackle was a fragile hymn in the mansion's foyer, its warmth coaxing life back into Evelyn's frostbitten hands as she watched Lily and Finn sleep, their small chests rising under blankets, scavenged from dusty shelves. The German shepherd, Storm, lay by the hearth, his amber eyes glinting, ears twitching at every creak of the old house, a sentinel mirroring Evelyn's own vigilance. The 32-year-old mother gripped her pocket knife, the blade a cold comfort against the dread knotting her gut. Victor, her ex-husband, was out there, his rage a storm no blizzard could bury. The boot print she'd seen outside, fresh in the snow, was a scream in her mind, proof that safety was a lie, even in this miraculous haven. The mansion's flickering bulb and humming generator were lifelines, its canned food and firewood a gift. But Evelyn's relief was a thin thread, frayed by the howl she'd heard in the valley. Human, hunting. She stood, checking the barred door, its lock sturdy but not enough against Victor's vengeance. Lily stirred, murmuring, "Is it safe, Mom?" Evelyn forced a smile, her voice soft. "For now, sweetheart." Finn, clutching at his blanket, slept on, oblivious to the weight of their escape from the ice cave, guided by Storm's uncanny instinct. The dog's presence was a mystery, wild, yet purposeful, as if sent to pull them from death's edge. Evelyn's gaze swept the foyer, its walls lined with faded photos of a gray-haired man, alone, his eyes heavy with loss. Who owned this place, and why was it abandoned yet stocked? Storm rose, his nose low, trotting toward a hallway, glancing back as if beckoning. Evelyn hesitated, her knife ready, but the kids needed more than this room to survive. Answers, supplies, a plan. She woke Lily and Finn gently, their eyes bleary but trusting. "Stay close," she whispered, following Storm, the floorboards groaning under their steps. The hallway led to a kitchen, its pantry stocked with jars of preserves, bags of rice, and bottled water. Enough for weeks. Evelyn's heart lifted, but her eyes caught a knife block, blades gleaming. She took one, heavier than her pocket knife, a weapon for what hunted them. Storm nudged a door, revealing a staircase to a second floor, and Evelyn followed, Lily's hand in hers, Finn trailing, his curiosity sparking. The upstairs was a maze of rooms, dust thick, furniture draped in sheets, but one stood out, a study, its desk cluttered with blueprints and old letters. A photo showed the same man from the foyer, younger, with a woman and child, their smiles haunting. Evelyn's throat tightened. Loss lived here, like it did in her. Storm pawed at a closet, revealing a locked safe, its dial rusted but intact. Finn whispered, "Maybe there's treasure." Evelyn managed a faint smile, but her mind was on Victor. The boot print, the howl. She needed to know this place, its exits, its secrets, before he found them. Back in the foyer, the fire still burned, but a new sound froze her, a soft thud outside. Not wind, but deliberate. Storm's growl rumbled, his hackles raised, and Evelyn's pulse spiked. She signaled the kids to hide behind the couch, her knife raised. Storm positioning himself by the door. The thud came again, closer, and a shadow flickered past the window, too tall for an animal. Evelyn's breath caught. Victor? His men? She crept to the window, peering through a crack, and saw a figure in the snow. Not Victor's bulk, but older, stooped, carrying a lantern. The door creaked, and Evelyn tensed, ready to strike. But Storm's growl softened, his tail flicking. An old man stepped in, his face weathered, eyes wide at the sight of them. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, his voice gruff but not cruel. Evelyn lowered her knife, her instincts torn. "We're lost. The storm. We didn't mean to trespass." The man's gaze softened, taking in Lily and Finn, their pale faces peeking out, and Storm, now calm beside him. "I'm Henry," he said, setting the lantern down. "This is my place. You're half dead, aren't you?" Evelyn nodded, her story spilling out. Victor, the cave, Storm's rescue. Henry listened, his eyes kind but shadowed. "You're safe here, Emoise," he said, "for as long as you need." Evelyn wanted to believe him, but the boot print wasn't his. Too large, too fresh. Henry stoked the fire, offering soup from the pantry, and the kids ate, their trust in him quick, childlike. Evelyn stayed wary, her knife close, watching Henry's hands. His movements? He was alone, grieving, but genuine. His offer a lifeline. Storm curled by Lily, as if approving, but Evelyn's relief shattered when she glanced outside, a glint in the snow. Metal. Not natural. She stepped to the window, her heart sinking. A hunting trap, newly set, its chain gleaming. Victor's men, or worse, were close, their tracks hidden by the storm, but their intent clear. Henry followed her gaze, his face hardening. "You're not just running from weather, are you?" Evelyn met his eyes, her voice low. "No, and they are near." Storm's growl echoed her fear, his body tense, and Evelyn knew this mansion. Henry's kindness was a fragile light in a darkness that was closing in fast. The mansion's fire cast flickering shadows across the foyer, its warmth a fragile bulwark against the storm raging outside. But Evelyn's grip on her kitchen knife never loosened, her eyes darting to the windows where snow buried the world, and Victor's tracks. Lily and Finn slept fitfully on a makeshift bed of blankets, their faces softened by the soup Henry had warmed. But Evelyn's heart pounded. The hunting trap she'd seen glinting in the snow, a silent scream that Victor was close, his vow to kill her a chain tightening with every gust. Storm, the gray German shepherd who'd led them from the ice cave, lay near the kids, his amber eyes locked on the door, his low growl a mirror of Evelyn's dread. Henry, the old man who'd welcomed them, sat by the fire, his weathered hands stoking the logs, his gaze distant but kind. Yet Evelyn watched him, wary of trust in a world that had betrayed her. The boot print, the trap, the howl in the valley. Victor's presence was a noose, and this mansion, with its canned food and humming generator, felt like a lure before the strike. She needed to know more about Henry, about this place, to survive what was coming. Morning broke, gray and heavy, the storm easing but the cold unrelenting. Henry rose, offering to show them the house, his voice gruff but steady. "You'll need to know your way around," he said, glancing at Storm, who followed, tail flicking. Evelyn woke Lily and Finn, their eyes bright with curiosity, and trailed Henry, her knife tucked in her belt, senses sharp. The mansion was a labyrinth of dust and memory, hallways lined with faded photos, a kitchen stocked with preserves, a study cluttered with blueprints of bridges and machines. Evelyn's gaze lingered on a photo of Henry, younger, with a woman and girl, their smiles haunting, their absence a wound in the air. A letter on the desk, yellowed, spoke of a car accident, a family lost, in Henry's retreat to this mountain. Engineers, he said, catching her look. Built things once. Now I just exist. His voice cracked, and Evelyn's chest tightened. She knew loss, knew how hiding, but trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Henry led them to a workshop, its tools rusted but functional, and taught Lily and Finn to make snares from wire, his patience softening their fear. You're tough, like your mom, he told them, and Finn beamed, setting a trap with clumsy pride. Evelyn watched, grateful but uneasy, her mind on Victor. She slipped away, Storm at her heels, to check the perimeter, the snow fresh but treacherous. Near the trap she'd seen, she found new marks, tire tracks, shallow, half-covered, leading into the trees. Her blood ran cold. Victor's men, not just one, were circling, their hunt methodical. Storm's hackles raised, his nose low, sniffing a path toward a broken fence, where a cigarette butt, still warm, lay discarded. Evelyn's pulse surged. Someone had been here, watching, waiting. She grabbed Storm's collar, pulling him back, her knife drawn, eyes scanning the forest's edge. A faint engine hum echoed, distant but closing, and she ran to the mansion, her breath ragged. Inside, Henry was showing Lily how to sharpen a stick, but Evelyn's voice cut through, "They're here." Henry's face hardened, his kindness replaced by a soldier's edge. "How many?" Evelyn shook her head, the tire tracks a blur in her mind. "More than one. Close." Henry nodded, moving to a locked cabinet, pulling out a hunting rifle, its barrel worn but deadly. "I've dealt with poachers before," he said, checking the ammo. "You're not alone." Evelyn's throat tightened. Henry's offer was a lifeline, but the cigarette, the tracks, meant Victor's men were professionals, not drifters. She gathered Lily and Finn, their eyes wide, and explained, her voice calm despite the storm in her chest. "We stay smart. We stay together." Finn clutched his toy car, Lily's hand in hers, and Storm positioned himself by the door, his growl a warning. Henry led them to a cellar, its entrance hidden under a rug, stocked with more supplies, batteries, a radio, a first aid kit. "If it comes to it, you hide here," he said, his eyes meeting Evelyn's, a pact forged in shared danger. Evelyn nodded, but her mind raced. Victor wouldn't stop. Not until she was dead, and the kids were his leverage. She checked the radio, static, crackling. No signal, but Storm's sudden bark snapped her focus. He bolted upstairs, Evelyn following, her knife ready. Through a window, she saw movement. 2 figures in the snow, hooded, armed, creeping toward the mansion. Storm's teeth bared, his body tense, and Evelyn's heart hammered. Victor's men, or worse, his allies, had found them. Henry joined her, rifle raised, his voice low. "We hold the line." Evelyn's resolve hardened, the kids' faces in her mind, Storm's strength beside her. The mansion was a fortress, Henry a guardian, but Victor's shadow was a tide, and Evelyn knew this light in the darkness was about to be tested by blood. The mansion's silence was a lie, broken only by the fire's faint crackle and Storm's low growl, a warning that sliced through the night's deceptive calm. Evelyn stood by the window, her kitchen knife gleaming in the dim light, her heart hammering as she watched the 2 hooded figures creep closer through the snow, their rifles glinting with intent. Henry, rifle in hand, crouched beside her, his weathered face set like stone, while Lily and Finn huddled in the cellar's hidden entrance, their wide eyes reflecting the terror Evelyn fought to bury. Victor, her ex-husband, had found them. His vow to kill her, a specter now taking form, and the boot prints, cigarette butts, and traps were no longer warnings, but a prelude to this midnight assault. Storm's hackles raised, his amber eyes locked on the door, and Evelyn's breath caught as a third shadow joined the first 2, their movements coordinated, Professional, Victor's men, or worse, mercenaries he'd hired. Henry whispered, "Get the kids to the tunnel." His voice steady despite the odds. Evelyn nodded, her resolve steel despite the fear clawing her chest. She'd seen Victor's rage, felt his fists, and knew he'd burn this haven to ash to claim her. The cellar's trap door led to a passage Henry had shown them, an old escape route carved into the mountain. But reaching it meant holding the line. A glass bottle shattered outside, gasoline's acrid stench seeping through the window, a Molotov cocktail, its flame licking the porch, the firelight revealing Victor himself, his scarred face twisted with hate. A pistol raised. "Evelyn!" he roared, his voice ablaze through the storm. "You can't run forever." The words were a noose, tightening as gunfire erupted, bullets splintering the door. Storm barked, fierce, lunging toward the window, and Evelyn pulled him back, her knife ready. Henry firing a warning shot that scattered the attackers. "Now!" Henry hissed, and Evelyn grabbed Lily and Finn, their small hands trembling in hers, rushing them to the cellar. The trapdoor creaked open, the tunnel's dank air a promise of escape, but the mansion shook as another cocktail hit, flames crawling up the walls. Evelyn shoved the kids inside, Lily sobbing, Finn clutching his blanket, and whispered, "Stay quiet. Follow the path." Storm hesitated, his growl defiant, but Evelyn signaled him to go, his strength their guide. Henry held the door, his rifle barking, but a bullet grazed his arm, blood soaking his sleeve. Evelyn's heart lurched. She couldn't leave him, not after his kindness. She grabbed a fire poker, swinging it at a gunman who breached the foyer, the impact dropping him. But Victor's voice cut through. "You're mine, Evelyn." His pistol fired, the bullet missing her head by inches, shattering a mirror. Henry staggered, firing back, giving Evelyn time to drag him to the cellar, his weight heavy but her will fiercer. They slammed the trapdoor shut, bolting it as flames roared above. The mansion's warmth now a pyre. The tunnel was narrow, its stone walls slick, the kid's whimpers echoing as Storm led, his paws sure in the dark. Evelyn carried a flashlight from the cellar supplies, its beam dancing, revealing roots and cobwebs, the path sloping downward, away from the inferno. Lily's voice trembled. "Will he find us, Mom?" Evelyn's throat tightened. Victor's face burned in her mind, but she lied. "No, baby. We're safe." Finn's small hand gripped hers, and Storm's steady pace was a lifeline, his instincts pulling them through the mountain's heart. The tunnel opened to a frozen ravine, the storm's howl muted, the mansion's glow a distant fire on the horizon. Evelyn's lungs burned, Henry's arm bleeding through her makeshift bandage, but they were alive, the kids unharmed. Storm's fur dusted with snow. She scanned the ravine, her knife ready, knowing Victor wouldn't stop. His voice, his vow, was a chain she'd have to break. Henry coughed, his face pale but resolute. "There's a cabin half a mile north, my old hunting spot. We can hole up." Evelyn nodded, her mind racing. Victor's men would scour the mountain, their tracks fresh in the snow. She tore strips from her coat, wrapping the kids' feet to mask their prints. Storm's paws leaving faint marks. She couldn't hide. The cabin was a shadow in the trees, its door locked but breakable, and Evelyn forced it open, ushering them inside. The single room held a stove, canned beans, and a radio, its static a faint hope. Henry collapsed, his wound worse than he'd let on, and Evelyn bandaged him, her hands shaking, Lily and Finn clinging to Storm, their fear a weight she carried. The radio crackled, a voice breaking through, news of a fire, a manhunt, Victor's name linked to arson. Evelyn's blood ran cold. He'd framed her, painting her as the fugitive to cover his hunt. Storm's growl snapped her focus. His ears perked toward the door. A flashlight beam cut through the snow outside, and Victor's voice echoed. Closer now. "I'll find you, Evelyn!" Her resolve hardened. She couldn't run forever. Not with the kids, Not with Henry wounded. Storm's eyes met hers, a pact of defiance. And Evelyn knew she'd have to fight, not just to survive, but to end Victor's terror. For Lily, for Finn, for the life she'd sworn to give them. The cabin's single room was a fortress of shadows, its stove's faint glow barely holding back the cold that seeped through the cracked walls. But Evelyn's focus was razor sharp, her kitchen knife clutched as she watched the snow beyond the window for Victor's men. Storm, the gray German shepherd, stood sentinel by the door, his low growl a constant warning, his amber eyes glinting with the same defiance that kept Evelyn upright. Lily and Finn huddled on a cot, their faces pale but resolute, wrapped in blankets scavenged from the cabin's sparse supplies. Henry, his arm bandaged but bleeding through, leaned against the wall, his hunting rifle ready, his pain masked by a grim determination to protect them. The radio static crackled, spitting fragments of news. Victor's arson at the mansion, his name tied to a manhunt. But Evelyn knew he'd twisted the truth, painting her as the fugitive to mask his hunt. His voice, his vow to kill her, echoed in her mind. A fire no blizzard could douse, and the flashlight beam she'd seen outside was a pulse of danger. Closing in, she needed help, a way to fight, not just flee, and one name surfaced. Clara, a friend from years ago. Now a small-town cop who'd once promised to have her back. The radio, their only lifeline, had a weak signal, but Evelyn tuned it, whispering a call for Clara's precinct, her voice steady despite the fear clawing her chest. Static gave way to a familiar voice. "Evelyn? God, is that you?" Clara's tone was sharp, urgent. Evelyn's throat tightened, relief warring with dread. "It's me. Victor's after us. We're in a cabin, north of the burned mansion. He's got men, Clara, and he won't stop." Clara's voice hardened. "He's not alone. Victor's tied to a crew, smugglers, ex-cons, bankrolled by someone with pull. They're why he's always a step ahead. Stay put, I'm coming, but it'll take time." Evelyn's heart sank. Victor wasn't just a monster. He was a pawn in a larger game, and her family was the prize. She relayed their location, the radio cutting out as snow buried the signal. Henry's eyes met hers, his voice low. "We can't wait. They're too close." Evelyn nodded, her mind racing. Victor's men were hunters, and this cabin was a trap unless they turned it into a battlefield. She rummaged through the cabin's supplies, finding wire, nails, and a can of fuel, her hands moving with a mother's desperate precision. Henry, despite his wound, helped rig snares at the door, tripwires that would clang pots as alarms. Storm watched, his instincts sharp, nudging Evelyn toward a loose floorboard where a rusty bear trap lay hidden. She set it near the window, its jaws a silent threat. Lily, her voice small but fierce, asked, "Can I help, Mom?" Evelyn's chest ached. Her daughter, so young, was growing brave in this nightmare. She handed Lily and Finn sticks, showing them to wedge the door, their small hands steady with purpose. "You're my team," she told them, and Finn's eyes lit up, his fear easing. Henry taught them to stay low, to move quiet, his patience a gift amidst the chaos. Evelyn's resolve hardened. Victor wanted her dead, but he'd face a family, not a victim. The night deepened, the storm's howl masking footsteps. But Storm's sudden bark snapped Evelyn alert. A shadow crossed the window, then another, their flashlights slicing the dark. Evelyn signaled the kids to the cot, covering them with a tarp, her knife ready. Henry raised his rifle, his arm trembling but steady. The door rattled, a wire snapping, pots clanging as a figure stumbled, cursing. Storm lunged, his jaws clamping an intruder's leg. The man's scream piercing the night. Evelyn swung her knife, slashing the man's arm, and Henry fired, the shot scattering the others. Bullets tore through the walls, glass shattering, and Evelyn dove, shielding the kids. Storm snarls a war cry. The bear trap snapped, Another scream echoing, but Victor's voice roared outside. "You can't hide! Evelyn!" His pistol fired, the bullet grazing Evelyn's shoulder. Pain searing, but her will fiercer. Henry tossed a fuel can, shooting it to spark a blaze, the flames driving the attackers back. Evelyn grabbed the kids, Storm leading them to a back window, its frame loose. They crawled out, the snow biting, Henry limping behind, his rifle covering their escape. The cabin burned, a beacon drawing Victor's men, but Evelyn's family slipped into the forest, Storm's paws guiding them through drifts. Clara's voice crackled in her mind. Help was coming, but not yet. Evelyn bandaged her shoulder, blood soaking her coat, and checked Henry, his face gray but unyielding. Lily clutched Finn, their bravery a fire in her chest. Storm's ears perked, sensing pursuit, and Evelyn spotted a glint in the trees. A scope, aimed their way. She pulled them behind a rock, her knife drawn. Storm's growl low. Victor's men were relentless, but Clara's warning gave her clarity. Victor's crew was bigger, funded, organized. Evelyn's fight wasn't just for survival, it was to break his power, to give her kids a future. She whispered to Lily and Finn, "We're stronger than him." And their nods, small but fierce, fueled her. Henry pointed north, to a ridge where they could hide. But Victor's shout echoed, closer, his flashlight sweeping the snow. Storm's body tensed, ready to strike. And Evelyn knew this wasn't escape, it was war. And with Clara's help on the way, she'd turn the hunter into prey. For her family, for their freedom. The forest was a frozen labyrinth, its snow-laden pines swallowing the faint glow of Evelyn's flashlight as she crouched behind a boulder, her knife slick with sweat despite the biting cold. Lily and Finn pressed against her, their breaths shallow, their eyes wide with fear but lit with the stubborn courage she'd nurtured. Storm, the gray German shepherd, stood guard, his growl a low thunder, his amber eyes piercing the dark where Victor's men stalked, their flashlights slicing through the trees like blades. Henry, his arm bleeding through Evelyn's makeshift bandage, leaned against a trunk, his hunting rifle trembling in his hands, his face gray with pain but resolute. Victor's voice, a venomous roar, echoed through the ridge. "Evelyn, you can't hide!" The words were a whip, lashing her with memories of his fists, his threats to kill her for leaving. Now a reality as his crew, smugglers, mercenaries. Clara had warned, closed in, their boots crunching snow, their rifles ready. The cabin's fire was a distant glow, a beacon drawing more hunters, and Evelyn's shoulder throbbed where a bullet had grazed her. But her will was iron. She'd fight for her kids, for Henry, for the life Victor couldn't take. Storm's ears twitched, sensing movement, and Evelyn signaled him. One tap, sending him slinking into the shadows to scout. She whispered to Lily and Finn, "Stay low. We're getting through this." Their nods a spark in her chest. Henry's voice was a rasp. "They're flanking us. We need to move." Evelyn's mind raced. Clara was coming. But time was a luxury they didn't have. She grabbed a branch, rigging it with wire from the cabin to trip pursuers, and led the group deeper into the forest, Storm's faint bark guiding them toward a rocky outcrop. Gunfire erupted, bullets splintering bark, and Evelyn dove, shielding the kids. Storm's snarl echoing as he tackled a gunman, his jaws snapping the man's rifle away. Henry fired, his shot wild but enough to scatter the others. But a second bullet hit his leg, blood pooling fast. He collapsed, gasping, and Evelyn's heart seized. She couldn't lose him, not after his sacrifice. She dragged him behind the outcrop, tearing her scarf to bind his wound, his hand gripping hers. "Keep them safe," he whispered, shoving his rifle into her hands. Lily's sob broke the silence. Finn's small fist clenched, and Evelyn's resolve hardened. She was no soldier, but she was a mother, and that was enough. Victor's men tightened their net. 4, maybe 5, their flashlights converging. Storm returned, blood on his fur, and Evelyn signaled 2 taps, sending him to flank. She raised the rifle, her hands shaking but steady, and fired. The recoil jarring but the shot true, dropping a mercenary. The others hesitated, but Victor's voice roared, "Kill them all!" His pistol barked, a bullet grazing Evelyn's arm, pain flaring as she stumbled. The kids screaming. Storm struck. A gray blur, leaping onto Victor, his teeth sinking into the man's wrist, the pistol flying into the snow. Evelyn scrambled up, firing again, driving the men back, but a net gun fired, its webbing pinning Storm, his snarls muffled. Finn cried, "Storm!" And Evelyn's heart shattered. She lunged, slashing the net with her knife, freeing the dog. But Victor tackled her, his weight crushing, his fist raised. "You're done," he snarled, his eyes wild with hate. Lily's scream pierced the night, and Finn threw a rock, striking Victor's head, giving Evelyn time to twist free. Her knife slashing his thigh. Storm barreled into him, knocking him down, and Evelyn grabbed the kids, pulling them toward Henry, who fired his last rounds, blood soaking his coat. The mercenaries advanced, their rifles raised, and Evelyn braced, Storm growling beside her, ready to die for her family. Then a chopper's roar split the sky, its spotlight blinding, and Clara's voice boomed through a megaphone. "Drop your weapons!" Police swarmed, their guns trained, and Victor's men froze, outmaneuvered. Clara, her badge gleaming, led the charge, cuffing Victor as he thrashed, his curses drowned by the chopper's blades. "You'll pay, Evelyn," he spat, his eyes burning, but Clara slammed him against a tree, her voice cold. "You're done, Victor!" The mercenaries surrendered, their hands raised, and Evelyn collapsed, her arms around Lily and Finn, their tears mixing with hers. Storm nudged her, his fur matted but tail wagging, and Henry, barely conscious, managed a weak smile. Clara knelt, her face grim but relieved. "We got your call. You're safe now." Evelyn's shoulder and arm bled, but her kids were alive. Henry clinging to life, and Victor was in cuffs. The chopper lit the forest, medics rushing to Henry, and Evelyn clutched Storm, his warmth a lifeline. Clara's warning lingered. Victor's crew had backers, a network untouched. But for now, the hunter was caged. Evelyn looked at Lily and Finn, their bravery a fire she'd stoked, and knew this wasn't the end. Victor's vow, his connections, meant danger still loomed. But with Clara's help, Storm's loyalty, and Henry's sacrifice, Evelyn was ready to face it. For her family, for the future they'd fight to claim. The forest clearing was a fragile sanctuary, its snow-draped silence shattered by the fading thrum of police choppers as Evelyn clutched Lily and Finn, their small bodies trembling but safe in her arms. Storm, the gray German shepherd, pressed against her, his fur matted with blood and snow, his amber eyes scanning the dark for threats, his loyalty a lifeline after the chaos of Victor's ambush. Henry, bandaged but fading, lay on a stretcher, medics working to stabilize him, his sacrifice a weight in Evelyn's chest. Clara, the cop who'd saved them, stood nearby, her radio crackling with updates. Victor, cuffed and raging, was in custody, his mercenaries detained. But his final vow, "You'll pay, Evelyn," burned in her mind, a promise of hate unbroken by chains. Her shoulder throbbed where a bullet had grazed her, but the pain was nothing compared to the fear that this wasn't over. Victor's connections, Clara had warned, ran deep, a criminal network bankrolling his hunt. The medics loaded Henry into a chopper, his eyes meeting Evelyn's, a faint nod urging her to keep fighting. Clara's hand rested on her shoulder. "We're taking Victor to county lockup, but stay sharp. His crew's got reach." Evelyn nodded, her knife still tucked in her belt, Storm's growl echoing her unease. She pulled Lily and Finn close, their bravery, Finn's rock, Lily's scream, a fire she'd stoked, and whispered, "We're going to be okay." but the forest felt alive, its shadows hiding eyes. And Evelyn knew Victor's rage was a beast that didn't die easy. Clara led them to a ranger station, a temporary haven with heat and cots, where Lily and Finn collapsed, exhausted but alive. Storm curled by their side, his presence a shield, and Evelyn sat vigil, the radio static a faint hope. Clara's update came at dawn. Victor had escaped. A bribed guard, a stolen truck, and a trail leading back to the mountains. Evelyn's heart sank. His vow wasn't empty. He was coming. And the ranger station was no fortress. Clara was mobilizing a team, but the storm had grounded choppers. And time was Victor's ally. Evelyn's mind raced. She couldn't run. Not with the kids. Not with Henry fighting for life in a hospital. She had to end this. For good. The station's supplies were sparse. A flare gun, rope, a hatchet. But Evelyn's desperation was a weapon. She rigged the door with rope traps, taught Lily and Finn to hide under the floorboards, their small hands steady with purpose. Storm paced, sensing the storm within her, and Evelyn knelt, her hand on his fur. "We finish this together," she whispered. His eyes a pact of defiance. Clara's radio crackled. Victor was spotted, a mile out, armed and alone. His crew scattered by arrests. Evelyn's resolve hardened. She'd face him, not as prey, but as a hunter. She led the kids to the hiding spot, their whispers of "We love you, Mom," a fire in her chest, and positioned Storm by the window. His growl a signal, the station's lights dimmed, the generator faltering, and a shadow crossed the snow. Victor, his scarred face illuminated by a flashlight, a shotgun in hand. "Evelyn!" he bellowed, his voice a blade. "No more running." The door splintered under his boot, the rope trap snapping, tangling his legs, and Evelyn struck, swinging the hatchet, grazing his arm. Victor roared, firing, the shot shattering a wall, and Evelyn dove, Storm lunging, his jaws clamping Victor's leg, dragging him down. The kids' hiding place held, their silence a victory, but Victor kicked free, his shotgun swinging toward Evelyn. She rolled, grabbing the flare gun, firing it into his chest, the spark blinding him, his scream echoing as he stumbled. Storm attacked again, teeth sinking into Victor's wrist, the shotgun falling, and Evelyn tackled him, her knife at his throat. "It's over," she hissed, her voice raw, her strength fueled by every bruise, every threat he'd made. Victor's eyes burned, but his body sagged, blood pooling from his wounds. Lily's voice, small but fierce, broke through. "Mom, we're here." The kids emerged, Finn clutching a stick, Lily's eyes blazing, their courage a mirror of hers. Victor laughed, a broken sound. "You'll never be free," he spat, but Evelyn pressed the knife harder, silencing him. Headlights pierced the dark. Clara, with two officers, their guns drawn. "Drop it, Victor!" Clara shouted, cuffing him as he slumped. His fight gone. Evelyn staggered back, Storm pressing against her, the kids rushing into her arms. Clara's voice was grim. "He's done, Evelyn. We've got his backers on radar, bank accounts, names. They're falling." Evelyn's tears fell, relief crashing like a wave. But Victor's glare, even in cuffs, was a shadow of danger. The officers dragged him away, his curses fading, and Clara knelt, her eyes soft. "You're a hell of a fighter, Evelyn." Lily and Finn clung to her, Storm's tail wagging, and Evelyn knew this was their victory. Not just survival, but a stand against fear. Henry was stable, Clara reported, fighting in a hospital bed, and Evelyn's heart lifted. She'd build a life now, for her kids, for the family they'd forged in this storm. The ranger station's warmth held them, but Victor's network, his vow, lingered in her mind. With Clara's team closing in, Storm's loyalty, and the kids' strength, Evelyn was ready, not just to live, but to thrive, to claim the future she'd fought for. free from the chains of her past. The mountain air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and freedom as Evelyn stood on the rebuilt porch of Henry's mansion. Her hands warmed by a mug of coffee, her eyes tracing the valley where snow no longer hid threats but sparkled with promise. Lily and Finn played in the yard, their laughter a melody that healed the scars of their flight from Victor. Their voices mingling with Storm's joyful barks as the gray German shepherd chased a stick Finn through. Henry, his arms still in a sling but his color returning, sat in a rocking chair, a faint smile breaking through his weathered face. His recovery a testament to the fight they'd all won. Victor, Evelyn's ex-husband, was gone, locked in a high-security prison, his empire of smugglers and mercenaries crumbling under Clara's relentless investigation, his vow of revenge silenced by steel bars. The mansion, once a burning trap, had been restored with Clara's help, its walls now a home, not a battlefield, and Evelyn's heart, battered by fear, was whole again, filled with the family she'd fought to keep. The weeks since Victor's final attack had been a whirlwind. Clara's team had dismantled his network, uncovering bank accounts tied to a rogue businessman who'd funded his hunt. Now facing trial, a local reporter, tipped by Clara, wrote their story, a front-page piece titled A Mother's Stand, painting Evelyn as a beacon of resilience, Lily and Finn as sparks of courage, and Storm as their guardian. The article spread, hashtags like #SurvivorFamily but trending, donations pouring in to rebuild the mansion. But Evelyn cared little for fame. She cared for the mornings like this, where Lily's giggle, Finn's grin, and Storm's wagging tail were her world. Henry had welcomed them to stay, his solitary life transformed by their presence, his grief for his lost family softened by this new one. "You're home," he'd said, handing Evelyn a key, and she'd accepted, tears in her eyes, knowing this was where they belonged. Clara visited often, her badge a reminder of justice served, her updates a shield against lingering fears. Victor's sentence was life, his backers exposed, their power broken. Evelyn's shoulder, scarred from the bullet graze, ached less each day, a badge of her own survival. She'd found work repairing the mansion's generator, her hands steady with purpose, while Henry taught Lily and Finn to carve wood, their small sculptures lining the porch, symbols of a life reclaimed. Storm, ever watchful, patrolled the yard, his scars fading, his loyalty a constant that anchored them all. The mansion's rooms, once dusty and haunted, were alive with warmth, Lily's drawings on the walls, Finn's toy cars scattered, a new photo of them all, Henry included, above the fireplace. Evelyn's nights were no longer sleepless. She slept with Storm at the foot of her bed, his soft snores a lullaby. The valley was their haven, its quiet a gift after the storm of Victor's hunt. But Evelyn hadn't forgotten his shadow, his network's reach. Clara's final gift was a message, sent through secure channels to any who might still hunt. They survived. Don't test them. It was a line in the snow, backed by Evelyn's defiance, Storm's strength, in a community that had rallied around them. The world beyond took notice. Schools invited Evelyn to speak, her story inspiring others to flee abuse, but she stayed grounded, her focus on Lily's homework, Finn's bedtime stories, Henry's slow healing. One afternoon, as spring crept into the valley, melting snow to reveal green, Evelyn walked with Storm to the ridge where they'd fought, the forest now a place of peace, not war. Lily and Finn ran ahead, their laughter echoing, and Evelyn knelt by Storm, her hand on his fur. "You brought us here," she whispered, his eyes meeting hers, a bond forged in ice and fire. Henry joined them, his steps stronger, and they stood together, a family not of blood but of choice. Their scars a map of battles won. The article had called them heroes, but Evelyn saw them as survivors, each day a victory over fear. Clara's last call confirmed the businessman's arrest. The network's collapse complete, and Evelyn exhaled, the weight of Victor's threat lifting like mist. The mansion was theirs, its porch their stage for new memories. Lily's first carved bird, Finn's race with storm, Henry's tales of bridges built. Evelyn planted a garden, her hands in the earth, a promise of growth, and the valley bloomed. Its quiet a song of hope. Storm, gray fur gleaming, bounded through the grass. His bark a call to live, not just survive. Evelyn watched her kids, her heart full, and knew this was the life she'd fought for. Not just safety, but joy. Not just freedom, but love. The world could tell their story. But Evelyn lived it, with Lily, Finn, Storm, and Henry, in a home where fear had no place. Only the strength to say, "We made it." Evelyn and her kids, with Storm, survived a deadly hunt, finding home with Henry. Thanks for listening. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell to never miss our latest inspiring stories.